right, guys, you are tuned in to the episode 2 of the Creators Game, the podcast, and we are joined here by
Jay Smith
and
Justin Joseph.
And I'm Deya Miller, and we have lots to talk about because there's so much going on in Six Nations with sports. There's so much going on. The Arrows are playing right now, so when you left the arena, the score was what?
It was 8-6 Arrows after being behind 5-1 at the end of the first period.
And now you were there, so was it a little rough, or how do you feel it was starting off?
It started off quick for Burlington. They're a big team. I haven't seen a junior A game in a few years, and they're a big team. Floodgates opened. They scored like 4 unanswered goals before the Arrows got one. Our guys are small. They're quick. They're in a rebuild, but surprisingly they came back. There's been no rough stuff. I left with like 4 minutes left in the game, but there was no rough stuff at all. It was a pretty clean game.
Like looking at that roster, who's expected to step up this year? Like, who do you see on that team that you're going to be like, okay, they might be carrying the team, or they're going to be like definitely the top 5 on that team?
Just after observing today, I got to go with Thunderhill right off the hop. I mean, the kid scored 3 goals real fast, like boom, boom, boom. They had a couple of APs from the Rebels. Brendan Anderson too, giant of a kid. He's like 6'5" or something like that. He's literally stepping over players going to the net. So he draws the defenders out to try to cut him off, take him out of the play, whatever. But when he was drawing these players out, then he's dishing to Thunder, and Thunder's wide open. So it was a quick, what do they say in hockey? Draw and dump. That's all it was.
So, you only named a couple there. So, who else would you say is some of the ones that you think they're going to step up? And even if they're just starting in the juniors, who do you see as because I remember, there's always that one candidate you're that they're going to be the next one.
Wales Rossett comes to mind. He's a small kid, but he's shifty. He's currently enrolled at the Hill Academy, doing quite well. His lack of size, he makes up for in heart. I mean, the kid doesn't quit. He does not quit. He's a tranny player. He's up and down both ends of the floor. Another one is Blaze Becker. He's finding his game. When I first saw Blaze a few years ago, he was a shy, quiet, timid kid. Fast, good shot, but he was shy. He was quiet, and now he's coming into his own. He was knocking bodies around today. He's not that big of a guy. I'll give him 175 pounds maybe, but he's coming into his own. He's getting more aggressive, and it's good to see.
Now, you're not so much familiar with Six Nations Junior, but for the junior, who do you kind of look for? If you're looking for lacrosse players, and if you're looking of in the MSL league, do you know any junior players that you're interested in seeing on the come up right now?
Unfortunately, I don't. I'm getting, like I said before in the last episode, I'm getting into the box game and I'm learning players and stuff like that. So I actually didn't end up getting to go to this junior game, but hopefully the next home one they have, I'm going to be able to go to. So right now I couldn't say I really have anyone, but I'm excited to see who's going to be looking to be rising and stuff like that. So
now I did get to see you play.
Oh, nice.
I was at the game. I do believe, was that you we were playing?
Yeah, I was.
You played for the Rivermen, right?
Yeah.
You were taking all the face-offs.
Yep.
I was watching. How do you feel the games went?
It didn't go the way I would have liked it to go. Obviously, with my own personal, my own personal critiques and the standard I put myself to, it wasn't exactly the way I wanted it to go. But I think for doing something I haven't done before, I've played I played a box and stuff like that, trying to get myself experience, but I never played this version of box. So playing on a hardwood floor or a concrete floor and stuff like that was a little bit different than I was expecting. But I would say for a first outing, it was fun. First of all, just being there on the bench and being out on the floor with everyone was really cool. So I would say it was a good first go. I would say that was very much something that I needed and something I think I got something out of.
Yeah, and I thought you did great. You definitely stepped up, and I definitely seen you didn't lose. It wasn't like you went out there and got washed and stuff like that. I was impressed.
Yeah, I was winning the possession. I was winning all my clamps, stuff like that. But I think the biggest thing that I wasn't ready for or expecting was the difference in how I have to maneuver myself to gain possessions. And they were telling me before, it's not about winning these clamps or winning the draws. It's about getting possession. And I didn't think I really got the emphasis on like how much more important that is than just winning a draw, because like winning a draw doesn't correlate as much to winning a possession as it would in any other form of lacrosse. So I think that was the biggest thing, that like I was doing well, but at the same time it was like I was very much having to adjust. And I think the second half I started to get it. I I was winning a lot more possessions consistently and things like that. But I think that was like, it was a little shaky at first. I was getting a little nervous.
So like, there's gonna be a lot of like very first games like happening. The Chiefs are playing tonight. Of course, the Arrows playing tonight. What kind of advice would you give to some athletes who like, maybe this is their first time stepping up and like when you look out there and you see all those people in the stands, like what type of advice would you give to athletes who are having their first time, stepping up in front of those big crowds?
I would say is like, think about things more objectively instead of subjectively. Like, don't internalize what's happening to you and what's going on around you. Is like, think about it as like a broader sense, and just like be like a sponge to everything that's happening. All the mistakes you're making, like when you know it's a mistake, you know the right way to do it. You know what I mean? And like, you're gonna have teammates that are gonna help you out, and you're gonna have coaches that are gonna help you out and stuff like that. So I think the biggest thing is like not being nervous for what could go wrong, but being excited for what can go right, and then being ready to like, when you mess up, like when you go out there again, like to do it the correct way. And that's gonna be fun, doing something correct after you messed it up is like usually a really good feeling.
Yeah, I always say that like the only difference between like being nervous and excited is just like your perspective on it, because you have the same feelings. You get the jitters. It's like, are you nervous or excited? It's like you're both. So like as being like a coach, a general manager, and being on the bench and stuff like that, what kind of advice do you give to some of the players who are just like, oh man, this is my first time, I don't want to mess up, or even a goalie. Let's say a goalie. It's hard for a goalie. Like you can get in a goalie's head very quickly. What's some advice that you would give to some players to say, don't let this get into your head?
I tell a lot of players, obviously if you're nervous, you're whatever. At this stage in the game and at this age in their life, a lot of them have pre-game rituals. They deal with it however they're going to deal with it. But I tell them, don't worry about making mistakes. And I tell the whole bench, if somebody makes a mistake, you don't got to point it out. The whole team saw it. The other team saw it. Everybody in the crowd saw it. You don't need to dwell on it. You don't need to point it out. Get over it. Figure out how to fix it and move on. As for goalies, it's funny because Dougie Jameson, who just played against Buffalo in the NLL Finals, as a young man, he would get nervous, whether it was box, whether it was field lacrosse, and he would throw up before the game. Like even field lacrosse, we had to watch where we're stepping on our bench because Dougie was there. He probably threw up somewhere. But it's easy to get into a goalie's head. So like our goalie Dustin Hill, he kind of gets in his own zone. He'll get there early. Then he'll go sit in the crowd in the empty arena. He'll go sit in the bleachers by himself, and he's getting in the zone. Sometimes he's listening to music. Sometimes he's not. And a lot of times we just say, "Where's Dusty? He's in his spot. Don't bug him." And a lot of goalies, you can get in their head to get them riled, get them off their game, but some, when they get angry, play better. So it could backfire on you too. So it's trial and error.
Yeah, sometimes you'll get those players that like they'll get angry, and then they'll start playing more aggressive, and they'll get more on point, and they'll be like, I don't know what he's going through right now, but just let him go through it, and it's working right now. But as soon as it starts to like backfire, that's when it's like, yeah, all right, cool down, take a break a little bit. So like for yourself, like as a player, like what kind of keeps you from getting those jitters, or even just the sense of like getting too much in your head? Because especially like when it's time to take a face off and stuff like that, and everyone's watching. Everyone's looking at you. Like that is probably, I would say, the most nerve-wracking thing, because as like, you have the goalie, everyone's looking at the goalie when they shoot, but everyone's looking at when you take a face off too.
Well, disclaimer, I'm a nervous wreck on a constant basis. My anxiety is at an all-time high. I don't know if he saw, but I was like pacing back and forth and stuff like that. And like, it wasn't even a lot of pressure on me, but like, I think it's obviously the standard I put myself, like the standard I have for myself and stuff like that. But one of the things I do is I've learned a lot of things, because I think we talked about it before, is like face-offs are really mental. And it's one of the most isolating positions in sports. While like goalie, like everything ends with you and stuff like that, like that is very isolating in its own way. But like face-offs are, first, not a lot of people understand it. You know what I mean? So it's already misunderstood in that like realm, but also like nothing starts. Everyone's waiting for you to start it. You know what I mean? And it's very much either you did or you like won or you lost. There's like no in between, which is like not fun of a feeling. But one of the things that I've done, or some of the things that I've done, is I've taken like a few different things from people. When I was in college at Drexel, I had like a sports psychologist, stuff like that, which was awesome. She was a great help, and it wasn't anything crazy. It was just like I got into meditation, stuff like that, like learning to take things out of my mind and understand the things that are in my mind like fade, you know, like it's not really happening. Those like negative thoughts aren't like actually happening to me. It's just like a thought in my head. So like I'm also one of those people that would like probably go out in the bleachers and stuff like that, like just to be where it's silent, you know, where I can like close my eyes and like focus on my breathing, work on focusing on one thing. And then one of the biggest things that I've gotten into is I saw like this article my friend sent me at Drexel. He was one of my backup face-off guys. He told me about this baseball player. I don't remember the baseball player's name, but who would just, before every game, he would sit down and he would just replay him like hitting home runs and just smacking the ball like a certain way. And he would just replay it over and over and over and over again. It's like a form of manifestation in a way, but like I've noticed that builds a lot of confidence too, because like you're picturing yourself doing something great or things going your way a bunch of times. And the same way with negative thoughts, how like if you're thinking about something going wrong a whole bunch of times, it feels like it's happening to you. Like if you try to change it up where like positive things are happening to you a whole bunch of times, you go out there with a lot of confidence.
Yeah, and I think we were talking about like the first episode, like how you don't like have to overthink things, especially like half the game's played in your head. Like just like I remember playing lacrosse and again, always being told half the game is played in your head and that like you've already played this game before. You've already seen this. We've already done this in practice. Just do the same way you do in practice. And like I think that's so true. Is just that like, you know, like maybe you don't need a psychologist, but like I guess if you kind of go up there and like play in sports, like take it like very serious, I guess you would kind of need something like that because, you know, a lot of things are on the line. So like when you take sports so serious that you're going to college for this, you're going to do all these different things. What's something that like kind of motivates you to be like, hey, like this is, you know, it's a sport, but this is like an opportunity just for a better life?
For me, it's more of like when I found lacrosse and like when I decided to like do it solely. Like I said before, I played football and lacrosse my freshman year of college. But once I decided to quit football and focus on lacrosse, I just like figured out how much I loved it. And it was like a thing of, the thing that motivated me was the fact that I didn't feel like I wanted to do anything else with my life, you know? And a lot of people say like you're your own person, like don't put yourself, like you're not this player, you know, you're your own person, you have your own sound and stuff like that. But I thought of it as like I want to be, like when I tell people who I am, stuff like that, I want to say like, I'm a professional lacrosse player. Like I'm a player on this team. I do this. So the thing that motivated me was like, I just want to keep playing and like I want to do this with my life. So like I didn't think I needed all the extra help and stuff like that I got, but I thought that if the resources were there and I wanted to do something, like why not take advantage of those things? And it's mainly just because like I want to do this for as long as I can, as long as I'm physically able, like my knees, my back, something, before something gives out, like I want to be able to do it as long as I can and hopefully get paid to do it. So that was the thing that motivated me, was just the fact that like I want to be someone who gets paid to do something that they love for as long as they can.
Yeah, and that actually brings me to our next question is like, what about some of those seasoned players? You know, they say, oh, my neck, my back. How do you tell some of those seasoned players that like, hey, man, you don't have to play in so many leagues or you don't have to play every game of lacrosse, like take a little break for a little bit, like...
We have some veterans on the team that are going through that right now, and like quite a few are like, I don't know how many more games I got left in me. We've had an abundance of players that have come out for us. Friday night at our game, we had like 5 or 6 new faces in the lineup. So there were veterans that were like, hey, I'll gladly sit out, and we don't mind giving those guys that rest. Like some guys come in and they gotta use massage guns on their legs. Even before they go out for warm up, they got the heat rub on both knees, and they got knee braces on both sides, and they got to put stuff on their elbows. And I say to them, how much longer do you have? I don't know. I'm going to play like can't get out of bed. And then if you look back at a lot of old time lacrosse players that are in their 70s and 80s now, they're crippled, and they'll tell you, I worked my whole life and nothing hurt as much as playing lacrosse. But would they have changed it? If they could go back, would they change it? Not a chance.
That's the beauty of it, though. Like, if you ask them, like, they'd be like, oh, like 70 years old, oh, I can't walk, oh, you'll never hear, oh, I wish I didn't play that game. Oh, they loved every second of it. That's the beauty of this sport.
They sure did, yeah. And we're getting it now. Guys that are in their 30s are like, I'm too old for this game now. But then you see something like John Tavares, who played into his 40s. They take on different roles. A kid that might have been in junior just cracking the senior leagues might have been, up down the floor fast as lightning. Couldn't catch him. Great player. Gets in his 30s. Now he has to be a role player because he doesn't have that speed anymore. Or maybe he don't have the shot he used to have, so he has to change how he plays. You get guys that have played heavy their whole lives and drop weight, and then their game changes because they can't do the things they used to do, or vice versa. They come into the game rail thin and wiry, and could put on some weight, have to change their game because they can't do these things anymore. And I think lifestyle has a lot to do with it. I know that, like prime example for us, after home games, we go out and eat. A lot of guys will watch what they eat. A lot of guys, the younger guys especially, are just like, I'll eat everything in sight kind of thing. But everybody's becoming more self-conscious about their own health as a whole, not just in lacrosse. So for the most part, our guys are pretty healthy still. You get some that have to get the heat rub and the massage guns, but again, it's part of the game.
I feel like that would be me, just for no reason. Just be like, yeah, I need bring out the heat, bring out all the tricks out, everything. Just grease me up. I don't know. So like, what's like a ritual that you have? Because like I know some of the players, like my friends who play lacrosse, and they have some strange rituals, and we'll get into that one. But like, what are some rituals you have before a game that, like, you said that you might go off and you might work on your breathing, or you might listen to music, or whatever you may do. But like, what's something that kind of stands out that you might do, or you might say to yourself?
I don't know if I do anything crazy unique comparatively to other people. I know some people are very superstitious for the things that they do. But for me, I first always have to do, like, and when it comes to games, I always have to meditate in the morning. I meditate, I do my yoga, stuff like that. Gotten really into it. Great for you, for longevity. But I meditate, do my yoga, and that's always like my morning thing. It's not even before games. It's like the day of. I have to do those things. I feel like it gets me in a good mindset. Then when I get to games, or when I get to venues, or wherever we are, I have to go out and walk around the field, court, floor, anything, because it's like a very much a mental thing where like I have to get used to the feeling and get used to the surroundings and stuff like that. I even do it for first practices sometimes. Like I have to like look around, like feel what I'm going to be doing, like take a few steps, like half speed, and like go over my head of like imagining people are there, just kind of like making myself in the game before the game starts. And then like which has been a more recent thing, is like my like positive thought process, like going somewhere by myself and just like replaying like things that are happening in my head. And then I like to do not as minimal, but close to as minimal, like once I'm like kind of warmed up, as minimal things as possible. Like I like to very much like do a few reps, do a few shots, do a few passes and stuff like that, because I don't want to get too high onto something and I don't want to get too low. Like if I'm not throwing great, I don't want to just keep throwing bad. And then like when I get in the game, I'm like a wreck, like, oh my God, I'm throwing horrible right now. And like if I'm doing like my face-offs, if I'm not like hearing the whistle very well or not moving very well, I don't want to keep doing it over and over again. And then I'm like, oh my God, like this might be a problem when I get out there. So I like to do like very small amounts of things, just getting a sweat and then like kind of going back and like getting my head right. Is
Yes, you basically kind of like ease into it. Like I know some players will go out there and just start whipping the ball at like the net, like, just as hard as they can. First thing they do is just try to take off the goalie's head. It's like that's your own goalie, man. Like what are you trying to take off the goalie's head for? That's your own goalie. You need him, but it happens all the time. So like, what are some rituals that you've seen for some players, or some like strange things that you're just like, I don't know what this guy's doing, but you leave him alone.
I've seen guys will only wear a certain pair of socks, certain color socks, certain t-shirt underneath. Might have been their big brothers, might have been the shirt they were wearing when they scored their first junior goal, whatever. I've seen a lot of weird stuff. Some guys will warm up separate from the team because they're getting in their own head. They're psyching themselves up. A great example is Rory Smith. Nine time. I think he played 9 years in NLL. He played with the Chiefs. He's played with Victoria. He's played all over the place. Sweetheart of a guy. On the floor, he's an enforcer. We're very fortunate to have him on our roster. He will go warm up separately. And I've seen him on the boards. He's checking the boards. He's poking the boards. He's talking to himself. He's getting in his head. We just don't, that's just Rory. Leave him alone. Don't try to make him come in here and do it because he's getting in his zone. I've seen opposing teams who have tried to talk smack to him while he's doing this, and they paid right away. So yeah, I've like Rory. If you don't know Rory, people would look at him and say, "Is there something wrong with him? He's talking to himself." That's just his way of getting in his head. Like, approach him off the floor, you'll never meet a nicer guy. I've seen, going back to the injuries, I've seen guys that will come in and automatically look for an outlet to plug in their massage gun, to do this, to do that. I've seen guys that have to put their pads on in a certain order.
Oh, I've definitely seen that. Like, I've seen that so much. Like, has to be done a certain way, and they've been doing it since they started.
Left sock on, right sock on, and then jock and shorts if they're a goaltender, and then it's left leg pad, right leg pad, and then it's left arm and right arm and left glove and rush, something like that. Then, or a lot of times you'll see it two goalies on the floor, especially. They have their little ritual to go to the net. Some of them touch the crossbar and the post. Some of them tap it with their stick. Some of them are looking up and praying. Some of them do all the above, and it's pretty cool. And I wasn't too much of a lacrosse guy growing up. I played for quite a few years, but I was a hockey guy and I was a goalie, so I used to do all that too. And I used to wear a certain pair of socks and a certain shirt underneath. So I know the ritual, and I've seen over the years with lacrosse. I've seen quite a few of them. Some guys will even only eat certain things on game day, and then if they have a bad game, they're like right on themselves. Oh, I didn't eat this, and I should have, and now look, I'm like, I think you're putting too much stock into what you ate, but that's just me.
Yeah, I think a lot of the rituals definitely start when they're younger, and like it's a lot of something like you'll just learn from like an uncle or a dad or like your older brother or something like that. So before we get into predictions for tonight, because right after this, the Chiefs game is going on. Let's talk about your beloved Rivermen. How are they doing? How are the Rivermen doing?
My beloved Rivermen, we are rolling.
You are rolling.
We played Hamilton again to kick the long weekend off. Like I said, we had some new faces. It looked like Hamilton had a few new faces as well. They had newly acquired Vern Hill, who played for us. He had asked to be traded, so we traded him. That's where he wanted to go. It was a good game. I think our guys might have let off the gas a little bit because Hamilton did get in within striking range, but we didn't look back. I don't want to sound arrogant, but they weren't going to catch us, not that game.
Yeah, like, it started off a little okay for them, but then after like the score just kind of got too much, it was just kind of like, they're not going to catch up. And then you could kind of see that their spirit was kind of breaking a little bit.
Well, it was 9-3 after two periods, so.
Yeah,
I mean, kudos to them. They made it close. The game ended 10-7. It was a good game. I expected a little more chippiness because it seems like there's a new rivalry building, and they're just up Highway 6. They're not far, so it'll be good for the sport. It'll be good for both teams. We've only have one loss this year, as discussed in the last episode. 13 guys on the road, and they scored one late. But other than that, we've had nothing but victories so far, and we look to keep going. Justin got to meet our coach, and they hit it off quite well. We got him in the lineup for that night. We said, show us what you got. And Justin is right. It's about more so possession than winning the draws. And I noticed a few of our guys were taking him aside and talking to him and saying, don't worry about this, do this, try this, whatever. And I just thought, you know what, let him be. This is what teammates do. And one thing Justin told me that he was had never done before, other than taking a draw on concrete, was taking a draw against a wooden stick.
Really?
I mean, yeah. I mean, when you're in the States, there's not really a lot of people who are using them.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
I could see that.
It wasn't like, it threw me off for a bit, but like I got used to it almost automatically. He won the first one because I was like kind of confused. I was like, what are you going to do with that?
What do you mean, what are you going to do with that?
Because like when it comes to a face-off, like it's like a lot different. Like offense, defense, stuff like that, it's just like any other stick. But when it comes to facing off, it's like usually like how the face-off game has like evolved today, like the way your head bends and stuff like that is like very important. So when you have something wooden that's not really gonna bend, I was just like, what's going on there? And then he like threw something weird, and I was like, oh, okay, I guess that's what you're gonna do. And then from there it was like fine. But
he was facing off while leaving against Dougie Paulus.
Okay.
And Dougie, all through minor lacrosse, through junior, he was a goalie. He actually was a goalie for our junior A team.
And he just decided to be a player one year.
Just got up one day, and he said, I think I'm just going to be a player. But I mean, kudos to goaltenders if they can make that transition, because you standing in the net, you see where players are supposed to be. You see what's expected. You see how plays play out. So it was probably an easy adjustment for him, because he is a hell of a good defenseman. He's a pretty slick draw guy. He's a utility man. I think Dougie goes to school in Iowa, so he just got back as well, and he's with Hamilton. But yeah, that was Justin's first time facing off against a wooden stick, and Dougie's a formidable opponent. So I think it was pretty good learning experience.
Now you've been slashed by one, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Now, yeah.
Now he has.
That's where the fun starts. That'll be rough sometimes. This is a great question. Who's someone, or not someone, but like anyone who is who are some players that you would always have to be like, you have to wear your full equipment? Like that was always a thing. It'd be like, oh, my shoulder pads, I can't run on my shoulder pads, or my slash guards, or different things. Just I don't want to wear like for whatever reasons, no one wants to wear their full equipment.
I know in minor you have to wear shoulder pads. It's an insurance thing. It's in the rules. As guys get older, they find ways to tweak it. My own son has a shoulder pad liner, and it's only about that wide. It goes up and goes into a Y. So technically he has shoulder pads on, but realistically they do nothing. But it's a rule, and most times guys in junior and senior, they don't wear shoulder pads at all. They'll have bicep pads and arm pads and a back and kidney pad and gloves and helmet, and that's it. It is tough to get them to, you get so used to wearing or not wearing them that when you try to get them to change, like if the rule book says you have to wear this and you don't, that's one of those rules where if you don't get caught, whatever. But if you get caught, you get kicked out of the game.
Yeah, and especially if you get hurt, and then you're like, well, you should have been wearing it.
Yeah. Like you see a lot of guys too, like you see a lot of guys get taped their wrists, old wrist injuries, old whatever. Some guys just, sprain their thumb, dislocate their thumb. They'll tape the thumb too. But if you get in a fight and your glove comes off and you have tape, even if it's preventative or to try to stabilize an injury, if you got a taped hand and you're going to fight, it looks like your intent is to injure. So there's a lot of, how will I put it, interpretations into these things. There's certain players where I'll tell our guys, pad up because this is who we're playing against. And I know a lot of players pad up when they're playing us. Like we got Rory Smith on the floor, Craig Atwood, another guy uses a Woody full time. He knows how to use it, but he can be vicious too. Brody Thomas on the Tomahawks, very, very, very deadly with a woody. Knows how to use it. There's guys in every league. The only thing is in MSL they don't let you use them. But I mean, those guys, they've played their whole lives with them. Switching to a plastic stick is something you have to do out of necessity if you're going to keep playing. But guys that know how to use a wooden stick generally are the ones you should pad up against.
Yeah, especially if they know what they're doing, then they know how to use it. Like when they want to be a dink, when they want to be an asshole, they can be like, I can be an asshole if you want me to. So let's get right into the Chiefs. So they are playing tonight. Predictions for the game, both of you.
I say Chiefs by a score of 12-6. I'm going to be there because I got 5 Rivermen players suiting up. Shout out to Ross Hill, first year senior, first year of the Rivermen. Got the call for the Chiefs tonight.
I believe he's number 66 on the Rivermen.
16.
Oh, 16.
Yeah.
I know he's a big guy, so that's how I know him.
He's a little guy.
Oh, well, he's bigger than me.
He's fresh out of junior with the Arrows last year. He was one of their big guns. He's with us now. He's probably top 3 righty offense on for us. I got the call last night for him actually. He's going to be playing there. Our goalie Dusty Hill is going to be. I don't know if he's going to play or if he's going to be backing up Warren, but I say the score is going to be 12-6. I did see Lyle Thompson at the arena, so he's around. So hopefully he'll be dressed. Jerry Stotts, another guy that came to us this year, was in a Chiefs uniform 2 years ago. He's playing for the Chiefs tonight, so I expect it to be a physically dominating game on both ends of the floor. Nothing against Owen Sound, but they're a new franchise. I don't know what their roster looks like. I don't even know who they got. I think they're going to rely kind of heavily on their Senior B roster. That's my prediction. Chiefs 12-6.
And yourself?
I'm going to say, since they're new, I think we can run up a good amount of scoring. But I feel like a lot of the times, like in our Riverman game included, when you run up the score, a lot of times you let off the gas. So I feel like it's going to be an opportunity for them to come up. But I think we're going to win. I think it's going to be a high-scoring game of 15-12. That's what I'm thinking.
Well, that'd be a good game, regardless.
It would be a really good game, but I really think that we're going to have a sound lead for most of it. The Chiefs are going to have a sound lead, and towards the end, they're going to start giving up a few goals, and it's going to get a little scary, and then they're going to hold it down and then finish out the game.
That's exactly what I was going to say. I was going to say that, we're going to come out strong, 10 goals first period, and then essentially kind of just let them catch up. And then by the third, if they're not caught up, let them catch up a little bit more and then put on the gas end of the third and then just kind of just show them, all right, we gave you a chance. Now we're going to play.
Well, and like I had said, I don't know Owen Sound's roster, but to be truthful, I don't even know who the Chiefs are going to have suited up because a lot of the guys that were in NLL like to take some time off and let old injuries heal and everything before they jump back into it. Like, prime example, DeHogan Anikoke. He just won the NLL Cup. Adam Bunbury just won the NLL Cup. Are they going to want to be suited up tonight?
I don't think anyone who just won that championship is going to be able to.
Even Dougie, although Dougie didn't win, he will probably take some time off to let nagging injuries heal because that's what Dougie does. But I don't know what the Chiefs lineup's going to look like. I know there's 5 Rivermen for sure in their lineup. We'll see if there's some new guys. They can't very well. Well, they could pull up Arrows, but they just got done playing, so I don't think they're going to be able to play. They're going to be a little tired. But if they're only pulling up 5 from us, I mean that's not to say they won't pull up players from a different team or. I mean they can, but I honestly don't know what the Chiefs roster is going to look like tonight myself.
Well, like I always see like on their Instagram and stuff like that, they're like acquiring new players and things like that. So how does that work? How does that work when they're bringing up players who are like playing, they're on the Rivermen, but yet they're still acquiring other players who aren't, I guess, under Six Nations? How does that work essentially?
Well, our none of the senior leagues are what they call residential, meaning you have to live here to play here kind of thing. With that being said, there are affiliation by center, Chiefs, Rivermen, Tomahawks. We're all, the only way we become non-affiliated is if the team higher up doesn't want to be affiliated with us. So we're affiliated by association. That's not to say you can't draw from other centers. There might be a center who has no senior lacrosse at all, and they got guys that are in last year junior, don't know where they're going to go next year, who are their center's non-affiliated with anybody. You can pull players from there. Prime example, in the senior C loop, Wellington Aces, great team, not affiliated that I'm aware of with anybody. We use Jordan Van Dam occasionally. Now Jordan Van Dam, another sweetheart of a guy off the floor, on the floor, he's a maniac. He's the one who got in a little scrum the other night, pulled number 15 for Hamilton, pulled his cage right off his helmet.
Okay. Tattooed up?
Yeah.
Okay, yes. Okay, I know which one.
Yeah, so that's a good example. He plays for Wellington. They're not affiliated that I'm aware of with anybody, so we can use their players as well as Tomahawk players. Chiefs can use Rivermen players. Oftentimes, our junior A team will pull from the Rebels or Ganawagi or Akwesasne. But this year, I think Peterborough, either Peterborough or Orangeville, I think it's Orangeville, has affiliated with Ganawagi and Akwesasne. So now those guys that make the jump to junior A are going to Orangeville instead of coming here.
Well, that kind of it makes it exciting for the sport. It makes it exciting because you think about the competition that's going to be out there, gives more opportunities for people to play. So
it does.
I think it's definitely a good thing.
Well, it's in the spirit of growing the game. If your purpose is to just grow the game, does it matter where you're playing? If you want to win, there are certain centers where everybody goes to play. Like there's powerhouses.
So what would happen in the event that one of these players would have to go to would you say Peterborough?
Peterborough.
What if they were like, hey, I don't want to go to Peterborough. I want to go to Six Nations, or I want to go play for the Chiefs. I want to go play with the Rivermen.
Well, if those teams are affiliated, what would happen is if their junior A squad had the rights to this player and they didn't want to play junior A there, they wanted to play here, there would have to be a transaction of those player rights. Perfect example, again, I'll go back to Dougie Paulus. Last year, the Rivermen released him. I wanted to bring him to the Tomahawks because I was with the Tomahawks last year. And I spoke to Dougie directly about this. We agreed on it. He was leaving to go to school. Wasn't going to be able to play enough games to play in the playoffs. So I traded his rights to London, knowing, maybe it was kind of a dick move by me, knowing that he wasn't going to be able to play at all. I needed a lefty forward. I traded Dougie's rights to London, and they traded me back a player that I needed. So now Dougie's away in Iowa. He understands what happens or what happened. He knows it was business. I said, even if you get your games in, you're going to be gone to school. You're not going to be able to play in the championship games because you won't be here. Stuff like that happens. I traded his rights away. For him to come back now, there has to be a transaction. And because the Rivermen released him last year, he's free to go anywhere. So now he signed in Hamilton. So if I want him back to the Rivermen, now I got to trade somebody or something with Hamilton to bring him back.
See, that's like that's like in the music industry. Like in the music industry, that's like, oh, you want to come over to Death Row Records? That's like stuff like that.
Yeah.
You gotta give something up. It's like an eye for an eye type thing. Mm-hmm. I didn't know lacrosse was like that. That's interesting.
Oh, it's very like that. The only place where there is residency rules in lacrosse is minor, basically, and junior. It's not where you played your minor, it's where you lived. Prime example, I had a player lived in Brantford, but played lacrosse here on Six Nations. When he got to junior, he had to go by his address. Thus, he became Brantford property, even though he played all his minor on Six Nations.
And then by address, it's like your actual, like where you live.
Yes.
Now, like, this is a stretch, but like if he just said, "Hey, I moved," then what?
OLA guidelines state that you have to be moved by a certain date. So
Got multiple addresses, baby.
If you want to play 2024, you had to have lived at the address you are providing as of January 1st, 2024. That's just minor, and believe me, it gets very political and minor. People are like physically looking up how far it is. Before they used to go by the county guidelines or the county lines as to where you lived. Then it was, well, how is it to their city hall, or how far is it to their post office? Prime example, not far from here, if you go over across the Grand River into that little community of Onondaga, which from downtown Oswego is stop signs and a couple of stoplights, 5 minutes. But technically they're part of Brant County. So those kids that live in Onondaga would have to play in Brantford unless they provided an address on Six Nations.
That's so wild. That's. I mean, I guess if that's what the league wants to do and that's what you sign up for. However, I still think that's pretty messed up.
Well, and again, it goes back to: are you growing the game, or are you trying to play for a powerhouse? Because if you're growing the game, it doesn't matter where you're playing as long as you're playing. Again, when you get to senior, the residential stuff's out the window. Then it becomes you're dealing people's play rights away. Justin could play senior C, get called up to the Rivermen, and then next year, Tomahawks could trade him to Barrie, and he doesn't live there, but that's where his senior C rights would go. So if he wanted to play senior C, he would have to go to Barrie, or at least contact Barrie and say, "I'm not playing for you, send me somewhere else." And then again, another transaction.
That reminds me of that movie, Doug Glad. The movie where Goon, the hockey movie Goon, where he's just like, he got sent to a center, I guess, or an arena, and he had a coach he didn't like, and he was just like, "Oh, send me someplace else." Mm-hmm. So I guess that happens in lacrosse and like.
Oh, it does, and 99% of the time we talk with the players. This is what's happening. This team wants you, or you want to go to that team. Okay, let's try to work this out. Let's see what we can do. Sometimes executive or our general managers or coaches are dicks, and they'll just trade you without you even knowing. You get an email from the new team, the new GM for the new team, and they're like, "Hey, welcome aboard." And you're like, "Whoa, what the hell happened? I didn't know it. I don't play for you guys." I've seen it, been a part of it. Unfortunately, I've had to do it in the past. It's not something I like to do. I first and foremost try to keep the nucleus of a team together. But I mean, sometimes some players might like me, or might not. In the role of a GM, they may not like the bench staff, the coaching staff, whatever. They want out. I'm not going to hold them back. Even to the point where I know certain players leaving for personal reasons may hurt the team, but I'm not going to hold them back. I might not like it. I might not like having to do it. But for them, you have to, because at the end of the day, you can't really stop them from leaving.
Yeah, lacrosse is definitely there's a lot of politics behind it, but I guess that's kind of like, it comes with the nature of the game, right? Because it's competitiveness, and everyone wants to get to the top, and it's like, well, where is the top? And that's why people come to Six Nations, because there's so much talent here. And so what's something that you had to experience, even if it was in football, the politics behind some of these sports things, or the conversations of hey, you can come here, might work out, might not work out, or hey, you can play this sport, it might work out, it might not work out. What are some of those conversations like? And how do you keep just loving the game and keep the politics out of it?
I can say when it comes to other sports, it's not, I would say, as unique as the way that they do things. I think that when it comes to trading and stuff like that throughout all the levels, it's very much more akin to professional sports. I think it literally is the same dynamic and the same kind of procedure, it seems as if you were thinking about how football players are getting traded and getting signed and stuff like that. But most throughout like your career playing in like the States and I think any other sport. It's not really like that. The closest thing you can get to it is probably with college, with recruiting, and then after that transferring. But I would say when it comes to that, like I had my fair share of trying to figure out where I wanted to go. Obviously, it's not going to be the same as like the conversation you just had about that, but talking to different coaches, emailing different coaches, and then having the unknowns of like, is it going to fit? I think that goes with anywhere. Like you never really know what you're getting yourself into until you get there. So you really have to really think about like the coach you're talking to, the coaching staffs that are behind them, the players that they have currently that you're going to like be brought up with, and then the environment. Like the school can be a really big factor, you know, and it's not just lacrosse. The one thing that I found is you have to love where you are without playing to do that. And I think that goes the same thing with that. Is like if you're moving somewhere, or if you're going somewhere to play on a certain team, you have to really, I think you really want to like the place that you're at, regardless of the sport, because anything can happen. You can get hurt. You can like not like the team, and like you're stuck there. And you want to like, if you don't like where you are, then it's going to feel really isolating and feel really like claustrophobic. And then vice versa. If you like the team, but you really don't like where you are, it's still going to feel very claustrophobic, because the only outlet you're going to have is going to play or going to practice or going to games, stuff like that. But any other time, you feel like really like tightened up, and you feel really like enclosed in a space. And then when it comes to like transferring and things like that, like it's really difficult in the sense of like first having these conversations with coaches and stuff like that, on like wanting to leave. Like if you want to leave, you have to go up to like your coaching staff and like let them know like, hey, I don't want to be here anymore. I want to find a different option. And sometimes it can go well. I've had conversations. My first time transferring, because I transferred twice, which wasn't fun. But my first time transferring, it didn't go well. Because I just quit football, and then I noticed that D3 wasn't the place for me, and I wasn't getting what I wanted out of it, and I had to have that conversation with my coach. It didn't go well, and I had a lot of trouble transferring. They made it really hard. They weren't doing a lot of things for me that any other place would, and it was making my life really difficult. But then my second time was, the circumstances were different, but that was a lot smoother sailing of a ride. But like, it's also a big thing of like, where do you want to go? Where do you see yourself? And like, what type of team am I going to put myself onto? And like, obviously with experience and stuff like that, you get to find out like what you want and what you like and the type of environments that you feel comfortable in, or something that you think is going to make you a better person. But the unknowns is a little bit difficult, but like figuring out what you want as a person and a player can make things a lot easier, like navigating that type of stuff.
Yeah, I think it's really important to just know yourself, because you do have to fit in on a team, and you do have to think about your future as like an athlete and what you want to do with the rest of your life, because it is your life. But you also have to fit in on that team, and sometimes that team just might not be for you. Like when you think of like Six Nations lacrosse, like I'm sure it even happens like when players want to, let's say, go to Hamilton, stuff like that. I know a lot of people can be like, you know, playing on Six Nations teams comes with a lot of, you know, the nature of the game, or what happens outside of like on the floor or in the locker room, or and like all these different things that comes with like Six Nations lacrosse. Do you ever have like a player come up to you and be like, you know what, like I just feel like I could play better, just not for Six Nations, just because maybe they just want to shine amongst themselves. And when you play on Six Nations, you really have to work really hard to shine by yourself, because you might be outshined by a lot of people on that team.
We've had players come in that, and not this year, the Rivermen. We do have a lot of players that have come in, and it may happen. But you're right. There's been a lot of players that have wanted to come here. I've heard it from the parents, heard it from the players. We want to come to Six Nations. Quite frankly, we're the closest a lacrosse center in minor for a lot of places. We get kids from Simcoe, kids transferring from Brantford, kids moving from other Native communities here to play the game, and I call it big fish, little pond syndrome. Whereas a kid might have been a superstar in a smaller center, comes here and he's like third line player, and he gets frustrated because he's used to having the spotlight on him. And you're right. Oftentimes you come to Six Nations, and I mean I've heard our community be called like the center of the lacrosse universe. I've heard that from people in the U.S. I've heard them say that. I've had conversations with them face to face, and I've heard them say that. Kudos to us, but we did invent the game. But a lot of players have come here to get on a team, thinking that they were top dog. Find out that they're not. There's 10 kids in front of them or 10 players in front of them. There are a lot of guys who have stuck it out of town players who have come here and stuck it out, became friends with their teammates, gelled, learned what the style of play is, learned where they fit in. Guys have adjusted to them, and it works great. We have a few guys on the team, on the Rivermen, that are from out of town that they're core guys now. But there have been some that I've experienced in junior that were like, yeah, I'm going to go back to where I was playing, or can you trade me here, just because they didn't feel like they fit in. And sometimes it comes down to stubbornness on the floor. They don't want to buy into a system that we're teaching here. Or oftentimes, and I hate to say it, sometimes the players take it upon themselves to, let's make this kid prove his worth, and they're a little rougher on him. They're harder on him. They're tougher. They won't pass him the ball, or tryouts, they're fighting with him. It's to test his mettle, or a player's mettle, to see where they're at, see where their heart is. And the players take that upon themselves a lot of the times. I don't think I've been involved with a team where a coach has said, go out there and kick their ass. Let's see how tough they are. Let's see if they stay after this. But it's happened. I remember Rebels had a young fella from Brentford that he came to every tryout, every practice, and some of those guys, they were just brutal with him. But he stuck it out. And then he learned later, like, the guys just wanted to see how tough he was and if he could handle it. Then now, like, some of his best friends are his former teammates. Now they're in their mid-20s now, but the players took it upon themselves. I'm not saying that it was a hazing ritual or anything. It's just the guys will say, let's see what this kid's got.
Yeah, I think well, for Six Nations, like, I know a lot of it is just like, you know, it is the mentality that we created the game. It is that having that sense of pride. It is that like you know, you might think that you're something out there, but come here and find out. Mm-hmm. And we'll all stand in line and we'll all watch you. Mm-hmm. And then I remember, like, even you know, tryouts for lacrosse and different things. You go through the gauntlet. People just have fun. Yeah, just bump them around a little bit. Let's just see. No one's trying to hurt you. Maybe they might be trying a little bit, but they just want to see if you do get hurt, are you going to keep going through, or are you going to break down and just, like, are you just going to fall apart? Because we need to know that you're going to go all the way through this. No matter how much we hate you, you're going to go through this, and then we're going to go right behind you, because that's how the gauntlet works, right? Everyone's going through, and that's just a part of the game, is that you have to know that, hey, we're all going to do this together, and we're all going to hurt each other together. But, like, well, not hurt each other, but, you know, some players are trying to. You know that.
Yeah, for sure. And you get, oftentimes you get, well, I think those words were said to Justin, let's see what you got. But by no means at practice did anybody try to hurt him, take his head off. We just expect it, keep up with the drills. If you don't know, and we tell this to all players, if you don't know the drill, start a little back, watch, learn, go through it. And so from a coaching standpoint, if I say, let's see what you got, I want to see that you're able to pick up something foreign to you, something new to you that you've never did, and see how quick you can pick it up and how quick you develop and stuff like that. At this level, it's a business. So, I mean, if a player comes in and might be a great player, come into practice, goes back to being anxious and nervous, comes into practice, totally blows it because he was too nervous. Will we give him another shot? Maybe. But, I mean, after that, it depends on how they present to us. You're exactly right. Are they going to get up and go and keep going through it even though they might have messed up or whatever? Or are they just going to walk away and be mad? Sometimes it's tough, and decisions have to be made from a business standpoint at this level. And I think I might have misspoke. We didn't create the game. The creator gave it to us.
Yes. It is the medicine game. It is there to give the medicine for all of us.
So thankfully, we have 4 senior teams on Six Nations. So Chiefs will send them to us. We'll send players to the Tomahawks, or some may jump to Can-Am, which is fine. You're still playing. To me, it's nothing personal. I've had to cut some young players, some young men that I'm great friends with. I just have to explain to them it's a business at this end. Yes, you have the tools. You got to sharpen them though. And 90% of them are still my friends. Some have moved away. Some have did whatever. Some are still mad at me from a decision I made in junior. But that's not my problem. That's yours. You're still holding on to that. That's on you.
Now, before we get out of here, I do want to ask, like, we know we all gave our predictions for the Chiefs. So, who do you think is going to be the top competitor for the Chiefs, and who's going to be the top competitor for Senior B? You know, the Rivermen, Tomahawks, and let's throw the Warriors in there, because who is the top competitor for Six Nations? Let's just say that, because I remember it used to be the Toronto Beaches, kind of for a while.
It's funny you say that, because one of my sons finally decided to play Junior A in his last year of eligibility, and the Arrows traded him to the Toronto Beaches.
Oh, okay. So is there going to be a little bit of? So he is playing, right?
Oh, he's with the Rivermen right now. He's out of junior, but that did happen a few years ago. He got traded to the Toronto Beaches when he decided he was finally going to play Junior A, and the Arrows traded him to Toronto.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So, Chiefs' biggest rival. I'm going to say Peterborough again. I can't foresee. Oakville made the jump from Senior B to MSL this year. They were a tough Senior B team. My honest opinion is I don't think they're going to be as tough in MSL. Chiefs, Peterborough again. Rivermen, from the early get-going, the rivalry has started with Hamilton, but I think our biggest competition is going to be the Brooklyn Merchants. They're the only ones to blemish our record this year. Tomahawks.
I think I was at that game. I'm pretty sure I was at that game. I thought Hamilton did better.
You were at the game because our first game of the season was away.
Oh, okay.
And so we played in Brooklyn, and the next night we played at home, and we avenged our only loss. Tomahawks, I have yet to see them play this year. I know when I had the team last year, our biggest rival was the Chaos. They're called. They're based out of Wilmot, but started a bit of a friendly rivalry with their coaching staff as well. I think the Tomahawks' biggest competition this year, though, will be the Wellington Aces. That's who they faced. That's who we faced last year in the championship game. Wellington has loaded up a bit, so they want to win. They want to win the Nubile Cup, as it's called. Can-Am Warriors, I think it's Allegheny. The Allegheny Arrows are loading up. They're loading up for a President's Cup run. Kudos to our Grand River Warriors. They did play Allegheny and did lose, but they only lost by 3. So that, to me, says a lot for an expansion team when a team like Allegheny is starting to load up. And by load up, I mean they're bringing in some big guns. I don't know what. Ask me in a month. It might change, but each team will go through growing pains. I'm new to the Rivermen as a GM. I'm going through some learning procedures that I didn't know. I'm getting to know a lot of the players because I knew them outside of the arena or I knew them from watching, but I didn't know them from an executive standpoint and a player standpoint. The Chiefs, it's run very professionally, so kudos to Dewey Jacobs. He's doing a great job. I'm really learning a lot from him too and working with him. Like, my phone's been going off. It's probably him. I think overall we could potentially have 4 senior championships under our belt with these teams this year.
That would be that'd be great again for Six Nations and for the sport of lacrosse. And so, are we going to see you on the floor again?
Yeah, obviously.
We are.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm not going anywhere.
Okay, that's why I had to look. I didn't know like how.
I mean,
how
the relationship between me playing for the Tomahawks and for the Rivermen is to be announced, but you're going to see me on the floor regardless.
yeah, I was just wondering,
yeah.
like, what team, where, and all these.
We're in front of the cameras. Justin and I talked in the truck. I have not got a chance to talk to our bench staff or our executive as of yet to make a decision on Justin, just solely because it's been a long weekend and we wanted to take our mind. We played Friday night. We had a golf tournament Saturday.
How did that go? I seen that.
It was pretty good. It was pretty well received, well attended. It went quite well. I'm not a golfer, nor have I ever participated in helping run a golf tournament, so everything was new to me. And kudos to Cheryl Bunbury for running that, because she basically did it by herself. I come in and just said, "What do you want me to do?" and then got stage fright when she told me, because I've never even been to that golf course.
That's definitely a podcast that we need to do, is talk about some of these players who are great at golf. Some of them, they're better at golf than lacrosse.
They are, and they're not scared to admit it. I have some of my own Rivermen players have said, "I'm a better golfer than I'm a lacrosse player."
And they're just waiting for the season to end.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh.
Yeah, but I did say to Justin on the way over here, because he had asked me. I said, I haven't had the discussion yet. It's been a long, busy weekend. Game Friday, golf tournament Saturday. I went to Elora last night to watch the Rebels play, and then our big Victoria Day holiday celebration down here, and the annual bread and cheese games that are going on, the Arrows and now the Chiefs. I haven't even had time to. I'm sitting back and enjoying a game instead of being behind the scenes going crazy.
So that's low key for tune in next week, and we'll have an answer for you. But again, I want to thank everyone for listening and being here, and episode 2 of the Creators Game Podcast. Thank you. Yeah.